Well, welcome everyone. Today is the launch of Operation Coolburn. Over the next few months, you will see that we will be preparing for our fire season. And how do we do that? It's all about informing the public, working together with landowners, and obviously mitigating against those risks. You know that last year we had one of our worst fire seasons on record. 1.2 million hectares burned across our state. We had 4,200 staff involved in that response, with 60 aircraft, and also interstate assistance as well as our own assistance. So it is incredibly important that we prepare for this and we prepare well. You will see behind us, what does it say? Are you bushfire prepared? Even if you're on holidays or you are at home with your family, you really need to have the discussion. But please, let's work together, because if we prepare together and plan together, we also respond together. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Look, the fire season that we're just coming out of now has certainly been, if not the worst, one of the worst in Queensland's history. And right now, as we close off one season, we already are starting to prepare for the next one. So today kicks off Operation Coolburn, where we want all Queenslanders, not only residents, farmers, departments, councils and businesses, to start looking at the work that needs to be done in the lead up to the 2019-2020 fire season. So today is Operation Coolburn. It begins today for that process over the next coming months all across the state of Queensland to start getting ready for the next season. We'll see this season start probably up in the top end and start making its way south. We're already seeing the change to the climate starting to happen now with cooler temperatures. Those days now are becoming a bit easier to live with, particularly up in the north and out in the west. We're seeing still a lot of water lying around in parts of Queensland. We know that will dry off, and when that dries off, we know we will have fuel growth. So today kicks off that. We're asking everybody all across Queensland, all of our rural fire service brigades, all of our councils, all of our farmers, all of our businesses, all of our state departments that manage land to now start focusing over the next couple of months what you're going to do in preparation for this year's fire season.
Do you think that the changing weather patterns are confusing people as to when the fire season actually starts and stops these days?
Look, it's a good question, and I think every state is going through the same thing at the moment. Even overseas in North America, the fire season is starting to actually wrap itself around on each other. Where what we used to have was a nearly half a year break, now is coming down to a couple of months, barely even weeks. That seems to be a reality now for Queensland. That as one starts, the other one almost starts straight away. I think we'll see more of that as we see more climate change.
So when is peak fire season, particularly focused on the southeast?
Oh, look, I think peak you'd be talking around about that October, November, December period of time. But it'll vary up and down the coast. Certainly, the areas like the Atherton Tablelands, around Cairns, they'll start seeing, decent behaviour potentially around June, July. It all depends when their wet season then kicks in later on in the year. But I think, we saw the peak of last season around that October, November period. That's obviously the one that we're probably focused mainly on.
What's the current backburning operations at the moment?
I'll let the Commissioner take that
Certainly, we're planning that from around the state. So what we do is do a risk assessment of the local area where we plan to do our hazard reductions. We did around 3,000 last year. Would certainly have liked to do more. We're very proactive in this space, and we have local fire management groups that will concentrate on this and obviously coordinate at the state level. But we do need everyone involved, not just the councils and our partner agencies, but certainly a big partner in this is the community and just the households themselves to be prepared.
And what about Central Queensland? Because there was criticism in that part of the world when the fires went through there about the backburning. What's been the, the liaison that you've had with the community there and the authorities on the ground there?
We worked very close with the residents and businesses, particularly after Marcia. We put together a task force to address the hazard reduction and mitigation burns in those areas. We knew that after Marcia we were going to, and even Debbie, that we were going to get a lot of fuel on the ground. So that started in earnest. What we found though, and was touched on earlier, is the seasons are being extended, so you have to have the right environment to conduct the burns. And if you don't, it's actually more of a hazard to do so. So that's the incredibly difficult balance here, where we had a clear break to allow us to do that. The last season did not allow us, so we're finding it increasingly difficult to mitigate and conduct those in a timely fashion. Hence why we have moved Operation Coolburn towards the beginning of the year, straight after the wet season, so we can get ahead of the game.
We've had some recent rains, particularly in the southeast corner. Is that a welcome thing? I mean, I guess it promotes growth, which can ultimately turn to fuel, but is that at least to green it up a little bit?
I think it's welcome. It does give you respite, depending on how much you get. And I touch on cyclones here, where an extraordinary amount of trees are brought down. I mean, that into the future is where a lot of that fuel comes from. But I think if we can I know that if we get very good at doing our reductions and mitigation and working with the community, get them prepared, we will get through any season.
So specifically, what sort of response do you want from community members? Is this the cleaning up the yards type message? What do you want them to do?
Yeah, definitely clean up your yards, see what hazards you have there. Go on the Rural Fire website, talk to your local fire warden. Is it safe to burn around my property? Get very proactive about this. Get knowledgeable. Sit down with your family and do a plan. If we have a fire, how are we going to deal with it? So these proactive and preventative strategies is what enables us to respond better.
Are you confident you'll be able to do more hazard reduction burn this year than last?
We're concentrating our efforts a lot earlier this year, so I'm very confident that we'll achieve more than 3,000. But as I will go back to the point, it's everyone working together to achieve that.
Does the message go for, you say all of Queensland, but we're in suburban Brisbane. Does it apply here as much as it does up north?
Certainly. I think last year that brought that home, where we had thousands of fires across the entire state, 200 fires in one day, with over 4,000 people responding. If anything brought it home, certainly the end of November and December did, where fires were burning on the fringes of large cities as well as in rural areas. So it's just as risky depending on what the hazards are in that area.
Are there parts of the state that are of most concern? We've had an extraordinary amount of rain in the north over probably the past 5 or so months. Are there pockets where you haven't had as much that you're worried about the fuel load being particularly dry?
We will look at the risk assessments in those local areas, but I would say that yes, definitely some parts of the state will be riskier than others, and that's where we've had more rain, cyclones go through to give us that fuel. So certainly we do have a system of looking at which are the high risk areas, and we'll attend to that first and foremost.
And in terms of volunteer firefighters, numbers, I guess it's always a concern not having enough personnel. Where is that tracking volunteer firefighter numbers across the state?
We did find a spike in volunteer firefighters numbers, particularly after that terrible season that we had last year. We normally do find that. We have a volunteering strategy to deal better, a more flexible, adaptive way to get volunteers to volunteer for us. But I'm quite comfortable with the numbers. We have around 33,000 rural firefighters around the state, 6,000 in the SES and 5,000 permanent in fire and rescue. So I think we're well resourced and we do have the capability and capacity to deliver.
So you brought Coolburn forward. How much have you brought it forward this year?
We would normally start in about July, but certainly it's come into obviously the beginning of the year for that very reason that we need to be better prepared and more proactive. But it's also getting the message out to the public sometimes. If it's too close to the event, we prefer to educate them earlier rather than later.
Is that an admittance that perhaps last year things weren't done as well as they could have been done and prevented some of those extensive fires that we saw?
No, we had been hazard reduction and mitigating throughout the year. What happened last year, even, and the experts and the scientists will tell you this, that it got a lot hotter than anyone expected. What happened in Queensland should never have happened in our lifetime. So what they're finding is the change is quicker than what they expected. And in fact, we achieved more mitigation burns than our southern counterparts. So I won't accept that we weren't prepared. I think what happened last year is something, and I've spoken about this, unprecedented, unimaginable. Who would have thought in our lifetime that it could get to catastrophic in central Queensland? They're conditions that are experienced in southern part of Australia, not in Queensland.